What if I told you that the greatest footballer of all time, a man who would conquer the world, was once just a small boy whose dream was declared medically impossible? This is that story, the real story of Lionel Messi. It's an epic you need to hear, so make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because you won't want to miss a moment of this journey. Before the cascade of Ballons d'Or, before the gleaming Champions League trophies were lifted into the night sky, before the world even whispered the name La Pulga, the flea, there was just a boy. A small boy named Lionel Andres Messi. And his story, his story isn't just about football genius. It's a modern epic of unbreakable will, of a love for the ball so pure it borders on sacred, and of a family that gambled everything they had, so that a dream, a fragile, beautiful dream, could take flight. This is the story of the boy from Rosario, who didn't just play the game. He rewrote the very definition of greatness. Picture it, Rosario, Argentina, in the late 1980s. A city breathing football. The air is thick with dust passion and the constant thumping heartbeat of a bouncing ball. And on the unpaved, sun-baked streets of the La Bajada neighborhood, a small, quiet, almost painfully shy boy is a constant presence, a ball seemingly fused to his feet. That was Leo. To him, that ball wasn't a toy. It was an extension of his being a soulmate that understood him when words failed. He could make it do anything. You'd see the older, bigger kids try to muscle him off it, lunging in with clumsy challenges. But it was useless. It was like the ball was tied to his laces by an invisible string, weaving and dancing through a forest of legs, a blur of impossible control, always ending with a clinical shot into an imaginary goal marked by two gnarled tree trunks. The first person to truly see the magic, to understand that this was something beyond just a kid who was good at football, wasn't a professional scout in a fancy suit. It was his maternal grandmother, Celia Oliveira Cucitini. It was she who, with a firm belief in her heart, took the 4-year-old Leo by the hand and marched him down to the training ground of the local Grandoli club, where his older brothers already played. The coach, Salvador Aparicio, took one look at the tiny boy and hesitated. "He's too small," he said, shaking his head. "He'll get hurt." But Celia, with the fierce conviction only a grandmother can have, insisted. "Put him in," she urged. "Put him in, and you'll see." And oh, did he see. The very first time the ball rolled to Leo, he took off. He dribbled past 2, then 3 opponents, each a full head taller than him, moving with a grace and speed that defied his tiny frame. Aparicio stood there, stunned, his mouth agape. He'd coached kids for years. He had never ever seen anything like it. From that day forward, a spot on the team was always, without question, reserved for Leo. His grandmother became his most passionate supporter, a constant presence on the sidelines of every match, her voice ringing out, shouting and cheering for her little grandson. She was his first believer, his first source of strength. Tragically, she passed away when Messi was just 11, but her spirit never left him. Since then, every single time he scores a goal, he looks to the heavens and points 2 index fingers to the sky. It's a quiet, beautiful tribute to his beloved grandmother, the woman who laid the very first stone on his legendary path. At the tender age of 6, Messi joined Newell's Old Boys, the club that held his heart since he was a child. It was here that he became the crown jewel of the Machine of '87. A youth team so dominant, so untouchable, that they lost only a single match in 4 entire years. Messi was their brightest star, a goal-scoring phenomenon, bagging hundreds of goals. The whispers started then spreading through Rosario like wildfire. They said a new Maradona was growing up in their city. His talent was simply undeniable, a divine gift. But then, just as his star was beginning to ascend, a dark, terrifying cloud gathered over the young boy's dream. At age 10, the doctors delivered a devastating diagnosis: Growth Hormone Deficiency, or GHD. It wasn't just that he was smaller than his peers. His body couldn't develop normally. The doctors were blunt. Without expensive daily treatment, his professional football dream would evaporate. He would be lucky to reach a height of 1.50 meters or 4'11". The dream was dying. The treatment was astronomically expensive, around $900 a month, a fortune for the working-class family of Jorge Messi and Celia Maria Cuccittini. The factory where Jorge worked helped, but only for the first 2 years. Argentina's biggest clubs, including the mighty River Plate, saw his talent. They marveled at it, but when it came to the bottom line, they all refused to pay for the costly long-term treatment. Suddenly, the brilliant future of this generational talent became terrifyingly bleak. Every single night, little Leo had to face the ordeal of injecting hormones into his own legs. Imagine that. A child having to inflict pain on himself every night. A physical and mental torment that served as a constant reminder of his fragility. His dream felt like it was slipping away. But the Messi family, they refused to surrender. They knew with absolute certainty that their son's talent was a once-in-a-lifetime gift, and they were determined to move heaven and earth to save it. Now just pause and think about that for a second. Imagine being in Jorge Messi's shoes. Your son is a genius, a prodigy, but his entire future, his health, his dream, it all depends on a massive financial and personal gamble. A gamble that your own country's biggest clubs aren't willing to take. What would you have done? What choice would you have made? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. In their most desperate hour, a faint glimmer of hope appeared shining from across the vast Atlantic Ocean. Through a network of contacts in Argentina, whispers of a phenomenal boy reached the ears of Carlos Rexach, the sporting director of FC Barcelona. At first he was skeptical. A 13-year-old kid from Argentina, small, frail, and in need of expensive medical treatment. It sounded like a massive risk. But then he saw the video footage, and the skepticism melted away. There was something undeniably special about this kid. So in September of 2000, Jorge and his son Lionel boarded a plane to Barcelona for a trial. This was it. This was the biggest gamble of their lives. They left everything behind in Argentina, their family, their friends, their home, their entire world to chase a fragile, uncertain dream on a different continent. In Barcelona, Messi didn't just impress the youth coaches. He left them utterly speechless. In his very first training match, he scored 5 goals, showcasing a level of skill and game intelligence they had never witnessed in a player so young. It was obvious. But the club's board of directors, they still hesitated. Signing such a young foreign player and committing to shouldering his expensive medical costs was a huge, unprecedented risk. Days bled into agonizing weeks of tense waiting. The family's savings were dwindling. Jorge's patience was wearing thin. Finally, he confronted Rexach. "We can't just wait here forever," he said, his voice laced with frustration. "If there's no decision soon, we're going back." The decisive moment, the moment that would alter the course of football history, arrived on December 14th, 2000, not in a boardroom, but at a tennis club. Carlos Rexach, having lunch with his advisors, made a snap decision. He would not let this talent slip through his fingers. With no official paper anywhere in sight, he grabbed the first thing he could find, a simple paper napkin, and hastily scribbled out a commitment. In Barcelona on 14th December 2000, and in the presence of Messrs. Minguella and Horacio Carlos Rexach FC, Barcelona's sporting director hereby agrees under his own responsibility and regardless of any dissenting opinions to sign the player Lionel Messi, provided that we keep to the amounts agreed upon. That legendary napkin contract changed everything. It wasn't just a legal document. It was a profound declaration of faith. Barcelona had officially bet on the little boy from Argentina. They would pay for his entire hormone treatment. The dream was alive. But the challenges were far from over. Moving to a new continent was a massive culture shock. Messi, already naturally shy, became even more withdrawn, retreating into his shell. He desperately missed his home, his mother and his siblings, who eventually had to return to Argentina. Only his father Jorge stayed with him, his rock in a strange new world. At the famed La Masia Academy, he was the only non-Spaniard. His profound silence was so complete that for a while, his new teammates genuinely thought he was mute. On the training pitch, things weren't much easier. The football in Spain was different, faster, more physical. Messi, being the smallest and most gifted, often became a target for malicious, cynical tackles from bigger opponents. But he never complained. He never retaliated. He would just get up, dust himself off, and keep playing. His answer was always and only ever the ball. Gradually, his teammates began to see past the silence. They saw the extraordinary, otherworldly talent of their quiet friend. Cesc Fabregas and Gerard Piqué, who would themselves go on to become legends, became his first close friends, helping him navigate the loneliness and adapt to his new life. The hormone treatment continued, and slowly but surely, Messi's body began to change. He grew taller, stronger, and on the pitch, he began to explode. He tore through Barcelona's youth ranks at a dizzying pace, leaving a trail of shattered goal-scoring records in his wake. La Masia, the legendary football factory, had taken the rough diamond from Rosario and polished it into a devastating, unstoppable weapon. The boy who once feared his dream was over, was now on the cusp of conquering the world. In 2003, a momentous event. In a friendly match against a Porto side managed by a young Jose Mourinho, a 16-year-old boy with long, flowing hair and the number 14 on his back was brought onto the pitch. It was Lionel Messi's first team debut. He didn't score that day, but his confident, electrifying dribbles were a clear signal, a herald of the arrival of a new superstar. Coach Frank Rijkaard saw that incredible potential. But the man who truly took Messi under his wing, who welcomed and mentored him in those early days with the first team, was another legend, Ronaldinho. The Brazilian superstar at that time, the undisputed best player on the planet, saw a successor in the shy Argentine kid. He didn't see a rival, he saw a little brother. One day, Ronaldinho would often tell his teammates with a huge grin, "This kid will be the best player in the world." Then on May 1, 2005, at a packed Camp Nou came the symbolic moment of transition. Ronaldinho, with the ball at his feet, spots Messi's run. He scoops a delicate genius chip over the Albacete defense. The 17-year-old Messi, in a moment of sublime mimicry, lets it bounce once and performs an almost identical chip, lifting the ball gracefully over the onrushing goalkeeper's head. His first official goal for Barcelona. He wheels away in celebration, running straight to his mentor and leaping onto the back of the great Brazilian. The resulting image is iconic. Ronaldinho's radiant, joyful smile as he carries the young king on his back was like a global announcement. The new era has begun. The new king is here. The following season, Messi's game time increased. He cemented a regular spot on the right wing, forming a fearsome attacking trio with Ronaldinho and the lethal Samuel Eto'o. Then on April 18, 2007, he produced a moment that left the entire football world breathless. In a Copa del Rey match against Getafe, Messi picked up the ball deep inside his own half. What followed was pure magic. He slalomed past 5 opponents, a blur of impossible balance and control, rounded the goalkeeper, and slotted the ball home. The goal was an almost perfect carbon copy of Diego Maradona's goal of the century against England at the 1986 World Cup. The comparison to Maradona was no longer just hopeful whispers. Messi had just recreated that divine moment live for the whole world to see. However, the path to greatness is never without its thorns. Muscle injuries, a cruel consequence of his rapid physical changes, and his explosive stop-start style of play, became a constant, frustrating plague. The most painful of these robbed him of the chance to play in the 2006 Champions League final, where Barcelona were crowned champions of Europe. The image of a young Messi watching from the sidelines. His disappointment and tears in the dressing room taught him a hard lesson about professionalism and the critical importance of taking care of his body. After Ronaldinho's departure, the legendary number 10 shirt, the most sacred jersey at Barcelona, was passed to Messi. This wasn't just a number. It was a heavy responsibility, a direct inheritance of the legacy left by giants like Maradona, Rivaldo, and Ronaldinho himself. But Messi was ready. He was ready to shoulder that glorious burden. A new chapter more brilliant than anyone could possibly have imagined was about to begin. He had conquered the club world. But his greatest battle, the one for the heart of his own country, was just beginning. If you're loving this story, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the drama and heartbreak that come next are a huge part of what makes this legend who he is. We have so many more stories of triumph, tragedy, and tactical genius coming your way here on Legends of Football League. In the summer of 2008, Barcelona took a huge gamble. They appointed a young, relatively inexperienced coach named Pep Guardiola. It was seen as a risky move, but it would ignite one of the most glorious revolutionary periods in the history of football. Guardiola wasn't just a coach, he was a visionary. He built a completely new philosophy of play, an evolution of Johan Cruyff's ideals, tiki-taka. It was a style predicated on absolute ball control, a whirlwind of short, quick passes, and constant, intelligent movement. And the undisputed centerpiece of this beautiful revolution was Lionel Messi. Pep made a decision of pure genius. He moved Messi from the right wing into the center, deploying him as a false nine. This tactical masterstroke was revolutionary. In this new role, Messi didn't have to engage in physical battles with towering, powerful center backs. He could drop deep into the midfield, receive the ball in space, and orchestrate the play. He could be a creator for his teammates or make devastating ghost-like runs into the space between the opposition's midfield and defensive lines. Defenders were thrown into a state of total confusion. They didn't know how to mark him. If a defender followed him high up the pitch, they left a fatal gaping space behind for others to exploit. If they held their position, they gave the world's best player the one thing you can't afford to give him: time and space to roam. The false nine position unleashed a monster. And surrounding him were the perfect satellites, the midfield maestros, Xavi Hernandez and Andres Iniesta, two masters of passing vision and spatial awareness. Together, this trio created a perfect, beautiful football machine that was simply unstoppable. In the 2008-2009 season, Guardiola's Barcelona made history. They swept everyone aside, winning the great treble La Liga, the Copa del Rey, and the Champions League. And in that Champions League final against Cristiano Ronaldo's formidable Manchester United, Messi delivered the defining moment. The smallest player on the pitch, he seemed to hang in the air, leaping higher than the giant Rio Ferdinand to head the ball with pinpoint precision past Edwin van der Sar, sealing a historic 2-0 victory. It was an iconic goal, a moment that affirmed his absolute dominance over the football world. By the end of 2009, Barcelona had completed an unprecedented sextuple, winning every single one of the 6 possible titles in a calendar year. And Lionel Messi, of course, was awarded his first Ballons d'Or. Under Guardiola, Messi ascended to another plane. He wasn't just a phenomenal goal scorer anymore. He was a playmaker, the conductor of the entire orchestra, the very heart of the game. The rivalry that defined an era between Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, between Barcelona and Real Madrid, produced a series of El Clasico matches that were pure art, capturing the world's imagination. Ronaldo was the personification of power-blistering speed and physical perfection. Messi was the embodiment of magic deceptive guile and innate untouchable genius. And then came 2012. It was a year of such statistical absurdity that it still beggars belief. Messi scored an unbelievable 91 goals in a single calendar year, shattering the 40-year-old record held by the German legend Gerd Müller. 91 goals. That number is simply phenomenal, an achievement so towering it will likely never be broken. He won his 4th consecutive Ballon d'Or, another unprecedented feat. The Guardiola era, from 2008 to 2012, was the absolute zenith for Barcelona and for Messi himself. They didn't just win, they fundamentally changed the way the world viewed football. They proved definitively that beautiful artistic play and ruthless efficiency could go hand in hand. And Lionel Messi, the quiet, shy boy from Rosario, had become the undisputed maestro of the greatest symphony the beautiful game had ever seen. While Messi was conquering every imaginable peak at the club level, there was always an obsession, a crushing burden that weighed perpetually on his shoulders, the Argentine national team. In Barcelona, he was a god. But in his homeland, he was often viewed through a different, more critical lens. People attacked him for not singing the national anthem with enough passion, whispering that he was more Catalan than Argentine. He was endlessly and often unfairly compared to the nation's other footballing deity, Diego Maradona, the man who had single-handedly dragged Argentina to World Cup glory in 1986. Maradona was a god, a symbol of the raw, rebellious fighting spirit of the Argentine people. Messi, with his quiet, reserved demeanor, seemed to lack that quintessential Argentine substance in their eyes. The weight of comparison and the crushing expectation of a nation was immense. Every time he pulled on that iconic blue and white striped shirt, Messi seemed to be carrying the hopes and dreams of over 40 million people on his small shoulders, and he often looked like he wasn't himself. The cycle of pain began at the 2010 World Cup, where an Argentina side coached by Maradona himself was ruthlessly dismantled 4-0 by Germany in the quarterfinals. Messi had played well, creating chances, but he failed to score a single goal. The criticism was deafening. In 2014, in the football heartland of Brazil, Argentina came agonizingly close to glory. Messi was magnificent throughout the tournament, especially in the group stage. He scored crucial decisive goals single-handedly, dragging his team through the knockout rounds and into the final. Their opponent, once again, was the formidable German machine. The match was a war of attrition stretched into the excruciating tension of extra time. And then in the 113th minute, Mario Götze controlled the ball on his chest and volleyed it home, the only goal of the match. The image of Lionel Messi walking silently past the Golden World Cup trophy, his eyes hollow and filled with a profound, haunting regret, became one of the most heartbreaking moments in football history. He was awarded the Golden Ball for the best player of the tournament, but it was a meaningless, cruel consolation. He only wanted the big one. This kind of resilience in the face of crushing disappointment is what separates the greats from the true legends. If this part of Messi's journey inspires you, share this video with another football fan who understands that pain and that passion. The pain didn't stop there. It was relentless. In 2 consecutive years, 2015 and 2016, Messi led Argentina to the final of the Copa América. And both times they fell to Chile in the gut-wrenching lottery of a penalty shootout. In the 2016 final, in a moment of cruel irony, it was Messi himself who missed his spot kick, blazing it over the bar. After that defeat, he finally broke. The burden had become too much to bear. Messi collapsed on the pitch, sobbing uncontrollably. In the post-match press conference, a broken man, he made a shocking announcement. For me, the national team is over. I've done all I can. It hurts too much not to be a champion." All of Argentina went into shock. From the nation's president to ordinary fans in the streets, there was a massive public outcry begging him to stay. Perhaps for the first time, they realized they had been too harsh, too demanding on their greatest son. Touched by the outpouring of love and for his undying love for his country, Messi eventually reversed his decision and returned. But the curse remained. The 2018 World Cup was another disaster, with a chaotic Argentina side knocked out by a brilliant young French team in the round of 16. The World Cup dream seemed destined to be an unbreakable curse for Lionel Messi. He had achieved everything imaginable at Barcelona, but with Argentina, his story was written only in tears and bitter disappointment. After the departure of Guardiola, and later his legendary teammates Xavi and Iniesta, Messi's role at Barcelona began to evolve. He was no longer just the brightest star in a glittering constellation. He had to become the true leader, the gravitational center of the team both on and off the pitch. He was officially named club captain. And the quiet, shy boy was no more. He found his voice. He began to speak up publicly, criticizing the board when he felt they were making poor decisions, fiercely protecting his teammates. He had matured, transforming into the undisputed voice and soul of the Camp Nou. On the pitch, he remained an unstoppable force of nature. Alongside his great friends, Luis Suarez and Neymar, he formed the devastating MSN trio, arguably the greatest attacking force in the history of the sport. Together, they fired Barcelona to a second historic treble in the 2014-2015 season, culminating in a dominant victory over Juventus in the Champions League final. But as Suarez and then Neymar departed, the burden on Messi's shoulders grew heavier and heavier. The institutional foundations of Barcelona began to crumble. All too often, Messi was forced to carry the team entirely on his own. He still produced breathtaking moments of individual magic. The incredible physics-defying free kick against Liverpool, the classic solo runs that were his trademark, but he alone was no longer enough to mask the team's growing deficiencies. Bitter, humiliating defeats in the Champions League began to pile up, each one more painful than the last. As Roma's incredible comeback, the 4-0 thrashing at Anfield by Liverpool, and the absolute nadir, a soul-crushing 8-2 annihilation at the hands of Bayern Munich. These defeats weren't just losses. They were symptoms of a declining empire, a stark illustration of the club's over-reliance on one man's genius. In the summer of 2020, Messi sent a shockwave through the football world. He sent a burofax, a form of certified mail in Spain, officially requesting to leave the club he had called home for 2 decades. He was exhausted by the board's incompetence. Ultimately, complex legal clauses in his contract prevented him from leaving. He was forced to stay, giving a raw, emotional interview where he confessed he was only staying because he could never bring himself to take the club of his life to court. Despite his profound disappointment, his broken heart when he stepped back onto the pitch, he still gave everything. He was still the best player, still the top scorer, still the leading assist provider. He had learned to lead through adversity, becoming a symbol of loyalty and professionalism, even as the institution he loved crumbled around him. Then in the summer of 2021, the unthinkable happened. Everything seemed to be resolved. Messi, fresh from finally winning his first major international trophy, the 2021 Copa América, a moment of immense relief and joy, had agreed to a massive 50% pay cut to sign a new contract. Everyone was just waiting for the official announcement. But then, the bombshell. Barcelona announced that they could not legally sign a new contract with Messi. La Liga's strict financial fair play regulations, combined with the astronomical debt accumulated by the previous board, made it impossible. They couldn't register their greatest ever player, even if he had agreed to play for free. The farewell press conference was one of the most painful moments in modern sports history. Lionel Messi, the strong man who had faced down every defender in the world, walked to the podium and broke down completely sobbing before he could even utter a single word. He didn't want to leave. He had done everything in his power to stay. But he was being forced out of his home. "I never imagined this," he managed to say through his tears. The entire football world was in a state of shock. Messi leaving Barcelona was simply unthinkable, like the sun failing to rise in the east. A few days later, he joined Paris Saint-Germain, reuniting with his friend Neymar and forming a superstar trio with the new generational talent Kylian Mbappé. Life in Paris presented a whole new set of challenges. For the first time in over 20 years, Messi had to adapt to a new club, a new league, a new city, a new language. He was no longer the absolute undisputed center of the team's universe. He had to share the spotlight. His first season at PSG was, by his own stratospheric standards, subdued. There were still flashes of genius, of course, but his consistency and overall influence weren't the same as they had been at Barcelona. PSG won the French league, but they suffered another bitter premature exit from the Champions League. The doubts began to creep in. The whispers grew louder. Was Messi finished? Was he a system player who could only shine within the unique ecosystem of Barcelona? But the doubters, they had forgotten one crucial thing. A fierce fire was still smoldering deep inside him. The fire of one last dream. The biggest dream of all. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar was universally billed as Lionel Messi's last dance on the world's biggest stage. At 35 years old, this was his final chance to win the one trophy that had always eluded him. The one piece needed to complete his legacy, to silence every debate forever. Argentina arrived in Qatar as the champions of South America, riding a formidable 36-match unbeaten streak. But in their very first match, they were hit by a tidal wave of shock, suffering a stunning 2-1 defeat to Saudi Arabia. Suddenly, the pressure was immense, almost suffocating. Every single remaining game was now a final. Do or die. And in that crucible of adversity, a true leader emerged. Messi put the entire nation on his shoulders. He scored a sublime goal from outside the box to break the deadlock in a tense match against Mexico. He continued to score crucial goals and provide vital assists in every following match. This wasn't the quiet, introverted young man of the past. This was a seasoned warrior. A true captain, snarling and fighting, ready to do absolutely anything for the colors of his country. Argentina battled their way past Poland, Australia, the Netherlands in a fiery, dramatic clash that went to penalties, and then a masterful Croatia to reach the final. Their opponent, the reigning world champions France, led by his PSG teammate, the unstoppable force of nature, Kylian Mbappé. The 2022 World Cup final is, without any exaggeration, widely considered the greatest football match in history. For the first 80 minutes, Argentina were dominant, playing with a perfect blend of passion and precision. Messi coolly opened the scoring from the penalty spot, and the brilliant Angel Di Maria doubled their lead with a sublime team goal. The championship, the dream, seemed to be finally within their grasp. But then, in a stunning twist, Kylian Mbappé exploded, scoring 2 quick-fire goals in less than 2 minutes to drag France back from the brink and level the score at 2-2, sending the match into a frantic period of extra time. In the added period, Messi once again seemed to have won it, bundling the ball over the line to put Argentina ahead 3-2. But Mbappé relentlessly equalized yet again from the penalty spot to make it 3-3, completing his hat-trick and ensuring the greatest final of all time would be decided by the fateful lottery of a penalty shootout. The very method that had previously caused Messi so much pain and so many tears. But this time, it was different. This time fate smiled on him. Goalkeeper Emiliano Dibu Martinez became a national hero with his brilliant mind-game-fueled saves. And then Gonzalo Montiel stepped up to take the decisive kick. He sent the keeper the wrong way. He scored. Argentina were world champions. In that single explosive moment of pure ecstasy, all the burdens, all the pain, all the years of criticism and heartbreak, they all vanished into the Qatar night. Lionel Messi collapsed to his knees on the pitch, overwhelmed by a wave of pure, unadulterated happiness. He had done it. He had finally done it. He had fulfilled the dream of a lifetime, the dream of an entire nation. The image of him draped in a traditional bisht, joyfully lifting that golden trophy amidst the jubilation of his teammates, was the perfect storybook ending to a modern fairy tale. He no longer owed Argentina anything. He had brought glory home. He had completed football. After conquering every mountain, Messi decided it was time for a new challenge, a more peaceful, joyful final chapter for his illustrious career. He turned down mind-boggling financial offers from Saudi Arabia to choose a different path, America. In the summer of 2023, he joined Inter Miami, a young club in Major League Soccer. His arrival created an earthquake, a Messi mania, that swept across the United States, transforming the landscape of the sport in the country overnight. And his impact was immediate and electric. He turned a team languishing at the bottom of the table into a winning force. He scored incredible signature goals, including a breathtaking stoppage-time free-kick winner in his very first match. He led Inter Miami to the League's Cup title, the very first trophy in the club's young history. In Miami, the world saw a different Messi, a lighter Messi. He smiled more, he seemed more relaxed, more at ease. The immense suffocating pressure of top-level European football seemed to have been lifted from his shoulders. He was playing with the pure, unbridled joy of a child again, just like that little Leo on the dusty streets of Rosario. He was enjoying life with his family, taking his children to the training ground, going grocery shopping like a normal person. He didn't just come to America to retire. He came to elevate an entire league, to inspire a new generation of players, and to plant the seeds of a deep love for football in a country where the beautiful game was still fighting for its place at the top. He had transcended being just a player. He had become a true global ambassador for the sport he loves. The life of Lionel Messi is a beautiful, complex symphony filled with soaring highs and heartbreaking lows, with epic, thunderous movements and quiet, emotionally charged moments of reflection. He has won 8 Ballons d'Or, countless League and Champions League titles, and most importantly, the Copa América and the World Cup with his beloved Argentina. His numbers, his records, his statistics, they will likely stand for all time. But the legacy of Lionel Messi extends so far beyond those trophies and accolades. His true legacy is the story of a small boy who was told no, who dared to dream bigger, who fought against illness and overwhelming adversity to become unequivocally the greatest to ever play the game. His legacy lives in the millions of children all over the world who look at him and believe that nothing is impossible. His legacy is etched in the collective memory of football fans, those magical, breathtaking moments he created on the pitch, the mesmerizing dribbles that defied logic, the stunning goals that made the entire world hold its breath in collective awe. He proved that you don't have to be the tallest or the strongest or the loudest to be the very best. You just need to have extraordinary God-given talent, an iron will, and an undying pure love for what you do. From the dusty streets of Rosario to the absolute pinnacle of the world in Qatar, Lionel Messi has finally completed his incredible journey. The boy of yesteryear has become a legend for all time, and his symphony with the round ball will echo beautifully forever in the annals of history. And that's where this incredible story concludes. What a journey, right? I am so eager to hear all of your thoughts. What was the moment in his story that stood out to you the most? Did his long struggle with the national team resonate with you? Please share all your opinions, your favorite moments, and any questions you still have in the comments section below. I truly love reading every single one and building this amazing community of football lovers together with all of you.